Breaking news. A massive explosion rocks the Eastern Front. Ukraine claims destruction of a major Russian ammo depot. Russian convoy wiped out in daring overnight strike. The early morning hours of November 8, 2025, were shattered by the sounds of war. Near the quiet, strategic town of Podolk, a fierce battle erupted. This was a battle that would showcase Ukraine's growing military skill and expose deep weaknesses in Russia's war machine. A long column of Russian military vehicles was moving slowly, heading toward the front lines near Podolk. Their mission: resupply troops and prepare for a new attack. The convoy included tanks, armored personnel carriers, and trucks filled with ammunition and fuel. The Russians believed they were safe, protected by electronic defenses. But Ukrainian forces had been watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That moment was about to arrive, bringing fire and destruction, on a scale rarely seen. Ukrainian forces used a combination of old and new tactics: drones, special forces, and powerful artillery. The battle for Podolk is a clear example of how this war is changing. For Ukraine, it's a major victory that boosts morale and proves their ability to conduct complex military operations. For Russia, it is a disaster. The loss of the 50-ton ammo depot will cripple their ability to fight in this sector for weeks. As the sun rose over the smoking wreckage near Podolk, the balance of power in this region had shifted dramatically overnight. The Russian plan was straightforward, a classic show of force. As dawn broke, Russian artillery roared, shells raining down on Ukrainian positions west of Podolk. The goal: create chaos and fear before ground troops moved in. Russian commanders felt confident, believing their firepower would clear the path for their armored column. But the Ukrainian response was immediate and disciplined. Instead of panicking, they activated rapid response units, highly mobile teams with anti-tank weapons and advanced communications. These teams moved to pre-planned alternate locations, using shoot-and-scoot tactics to avoid Russian artillery. The initial Russian assault included older model attack helicopters, flying low to hunt Ukrainian command posts. Ukrainian air defense teams, armed with portable missiles, created a deadly web of protection. Within minutes, Russian pilots faced fierce resistance and were forced to pull back. The Russians relied on brute force and a predictable plan. The Ukrainians, flexible and resilient, used their knowledge of the terrain and well-rehearsed drills to ride out the storm. They were not just defending, they were preparing to turn the tables. The stage was now set for a much more complex and deadly phase, one that would move from the physical battlefield to the invisible world of electronic warfare. The Russian offensive had failed to break the Ukrainian lines. Now, the real battle was about to begin. As the physical battle raged, a silent war was being fought in the airwaves. The Russian convoy was protected by powerful electronic warfare systems, designed to jam Ukrainian communications and drone signals. For a few minutes, it seemed to work. Ukrainian drone operators lost contact with their reconnaissance drones. But Ukraine had anticipated this move. They deployed specialized sniffer drones, flying high above the jamming bubble to locate the exact source of the Russian signals. Ukrainian technicians mapped the Russian electronic warfare systems, turning the shield into a target. Ukraine launched a counterattack in the electronic spectrum, using focused energy beams to disrupt Russian jammers. Russian operators suddenly found their screens filled with static. Temporary gaps appeared in the electronic shield, just enough for Ukrainian drones to get a clear look at the convoy. The battle of signals was a turning point. Russian reliance on a single, powerful defense became their biggest weakness. The Ukrainians, nimble and intelligent, peeled back the layers of that defense. With the jamming neutralized, Ukrainian drone operators could finally see the entire Russian column. The convoy was now exposed. The invisible war had been won by Ukraine, setting the stage for destruction. With the Russian electronic shield weakened, the Ukrainian sky filled with drones. Reconnaissance drones flew high, identifying and tagging high-value targets. Real-time video streamed back to Ukrainian command, creating a live map of the enemy's formation. Next came the first-person view attack drones, small, agile, and packed with explosives. Operators guided them with precision, targeting Russian air defense systems first. Swift attacks neutralized radar dishes and missile launchers. With air defenses gone, Ukraine deployed larger attack drones like the Bayraktar TB2, armed with laser-guided missiles. These drones picked off command vehicles and tanks from high altitude. The Russian soldiers were thrown into panic, attacked from above by an enemy they couldn't see. The drone assault was a masterpiece of coordination: reconnaissance for eyes, FPV drones as scalpels, and attack drones as hammers. The Russians had no answer to the swarm. Their air cover was absent, and ground-based defenses were destroyed. The convoy, once confident, was now trapped and exposed. The psychological impact was immense. The attacks from the sky continued without pause. While drones attacked from above, Ukrainian commandos moved into position along the convoy's route. Armed with advanced anti-tank missiles like the Javelin and Stugna P, they waited for the perfect moment. As the convoy slowed in confusion, the commandos opened fire from hidden positions. Missiles struck the lead and rear vehicles, trapping the entire column. Explosions brought the convoy to a halt. Panic erupted among Russian soldiers. The commandos used shoot-and-scoot tactics, firing and then relocating before the Russians could respond. The ground ambush, synchronized with the air assault, turned the convoy into a shooting gallery. Trapped vehicles became easy targets. The commandos worked their way down the line, each missile strike creating another fireball. The road became a graveyard of burning metal. The combination of high-tech drones and skilled soldiers created a kill box with no escape. The Russian offensive had turned into a desperate fight for survival. The trap was complete. With the Russian convoy pinned down, the battle entered its next phase, the artillery duel. Ukraine's artillery, hidden and safe, began a systematic bombardment using precise coordinates from drones. American-supplied M777 howitzers fired GPS-guided shells, targeting remaining Russian artillery first. Eliminating enemy guns ensured Ukrainian dominance on the battlefield. The drone spotters relayed corrections, making each shell a direct hit. Russian artillery fell silent, one by one. Ukrainian gunners then focused on the paralyzed convoy. Precision fire tore apart armored vehicles, supply trucks, and command posts. Survivors were trapped in a relentless artillery storm. Russian mortars fired blindly, unable to locate Ukrainian positions. The seamless integration of drones, command, and artillery allowed Ukraine to dominate the engagement. The Russian convoy was being systematically dismantled, and the worst was yet to come. Ukrainian commanders had one primary target, the convoy's mobile ammunition carriers, packed with 50 tons of shells and rockets. Destroying this ammo depot would be a massive strategic blow. While drones and commandos kept Russians busy, a larger Ukrainian drone, armed with a thermobaric warhead, was sent in. Guided by a laser marker, it hit the exact spot where the ammo trucks were clustered. The explosion was apocalyptic. A colossal fireball erupted, turning night into day. The blast registered on seismic sensors miles away, destroying everything nearby. Vehicles were vaporized, others flipped and torn apart by the shockwave. Secondary explosions continued for minutes as shells and rockets cooked off. The sound was deafening, a continuous roar of thunder. For Russian survivors, it was pure terror. The heart of their formation vanished in a flash. The daring Ukrainian strike had succeeded beyond expectations. The convoy center was obliterated in a single, catastrophic blow. The Russian offensive was finished. The massive detonation shattered the will of the remaining Russian forces. The convoy was in disarray, command structure broken, officers dead or out of contact. Demoralized and terrified, the only thought was survival. The retreat was chaotic and costly. Ukrainian artillery and drones targeted fleeing vehicles and soldiers. Commando teams picked off retreating tanks and carriers. There was no escape. The road back was as deadly as the road in. The Russian retreat turned into a rout, a total collapse of discipline. As the sun rose, the scale of destruction became clear. Over a mile of blackened, burning vehicles. Tanks with turrets blown off, supply trucks reduced to twisted metal. The silence after battle was broken only by crackling fires. The once mighty Russian convoy was annihilated. Survivors brought back stories of terror and chaos, an enemy everywhere at once. The myth of Russian military superiority was shattered. The failed offensive became one of Russia's most one-sided defeats. In the aftermath, Ukrainian forces advanced to secure the area around the destroyed convoy. The immediate threat to Podolsk was gone. The Russian front line was weakened. Ukrainian soldiers collected intelligence and documented the extent of Russian losses. The victory boosted national morale, with videos of the strike spreading across social media. The destruction of the ammo depot left Russian forces suffering severe logistical problems. No shells, no fuel. This gave Ukraine a critical window to fortify positions and plan counteroffensives. The battle exposed critical vulnerabilities in the Russian military: slow convoys, beatable electronic warfare, and inflexible command. The daring strike near Podolsk will be remembered as a textbook example of modern warfare. It showed how a smaller, technologically advanced force can defeat a larger enemy. For Ukraine, it was more than a battle won. It was a powerful statement of skill and will.